The newest contender in Japan is not an effort by some new Japanese carrier. The newest addition to the Japanese market is US powerhouse United Airlines. Last year, United announced a truly surprising expansion into Tokyo's Narita Airport, making Narita a mini-hub for United's operations into the Pacific. But the backstory of United's Japanese operation is truly astounding and takes us back decades to a completely different era of air travel. In fact, United may be copying the blueprint of a once legendary airline, and if they can pull it off, we may recapture an aspect of air travel that seemed to be lost decades ago. So buckle up as we explore the incredible story of United Airlines' Japan-based expansion. Hello there and welcome to The Avid Aviator. My name is Cyrus and I'm an aviation journalist working to produce quality and detailed aviation videos here on YouTube. So without further ado, let's explore the context for United's recent expansion into Japan. In 1985, with Pan Am struggling financially, United announced an acquisition that turned heads across the industry. The deal was as follows. For around $750 million US, United would take control of Pan Am's Narita operating base, complete with routes, 18 aircraft, and the locally based staff. This operation had been crucial for Pan Am in the past as a strategic gateway location for further Asian connections from Narita to cities like Seoul or Hong Kong, and United continued this operation immediately, with the full transfer in effect in 1986. In short, large wide-bodies would fly from the US mainland or Hawaii to Tokyo, before passengers would then filter onto smaller, still wide-body jets, taking them to other Asian destinations that were either too far to connect directly to the US mainland or had capacity that was too thin to dedicate an entire 747. Remember, this was long before United acquired their island hopper service with a base in Guam. That was acquired when Continental and United merged in 2010. Continental has long served the Guamese and Micronesian markets, but had no association with United directly on these routes until much later. So, United continued to operate this highly lucrative hub that gave them unparalleled access to Asian markets through a strategically placed hub. As other airlines began shifting to the better located Haneda Airport in Tokyo, United still placed a heavy emphasis on Narita, as less competition at the airport meant that the operation could be run more cost-effectively. But clearly, something has changed, and that something might actually be a combination of factors. For one, aircraft started to have more range without the necessity for a jumbo jet level of capacity. Also, United signed a deal with ANA in 2011 that would allow United to earn on connecting itineraries through ANA's massive Tokyo operation. This operation was really the last straw. In the following years, United would end their Taipei service, followed by Hong Kong, and in 2017, the last route, hanging on by a thread, Seoul, finally ended. And for most in the industry, this could only mean one thing. United's future of running a Japan-based operation had come to an end forever. Once a bustling enterprise, and now a memory of the past. But while United added capacity directly to the US from the severed Tokyo routes, there was soon to be a new opportunity that few saw coming. And it happens to come from none other than the island hopper operation based in Guam. If you're unfamiliar, United operates Boeing 737s to several US territories and local countries in the region, including Guam, Saipan, the Marshall Islands, and many more. And while these routes have served essential military populations alongside their not native populations, the routes have in recent years not been the moneymaker United may have hoped for. These 737s fly often far from full capacity. And while United wants to keep the service offered by their Guam hub, the situation was becoming a bit more dire. However, United leadership then stumbled upon a new opportunity that had the potential to save the essential service in the region. I hope you've enjoyed this video thus far, and don't go anywhere because there's still one important final chapter to cover. But before we go any further, I wanted to quickly encourage you to consider subscribing to my channel. If this type of in-depth aviation commentary and journalism is something you appreciate, which you probably do since you're still watching, please do consider subscribing, hitting the notification bell, and the like button of this specific video. Also, quickly, I've had some comments recently about this flight departure board that's sitting right behind me. It's a cool product that I found online called the Flight Wall, and basically you can set a specific geofenced area around you and it will show you the flights that are above. I'm not sponsored by the company, but they did give me a referral link, so if you want to buy the product, please do use the link in the pinned comment down below. Anyways, back to the video. This opportunity proved to be resurrecting a Narita-based operation, but this time around, adjusted for the modern era. With the same 737s based in Guam, United will serve underserved destinations within reach of a 737-800. Instead of serving highly competitive markets like they had before with 777s, they would avoid competition and serve exotic and obscure destinations like Ulaanbaatar and Mongolia. Alongside Mongolia, United has thus far started operations to Cebu in the Philippines, Kaohsiung in Taiwan, and Palau in Oceania. These are all markets not served heavily by United's partner in ANA, but are still promising destinations that American tourists would certainly appreciate. This presents a lucrative balance for United. Allow their partner in ANA to connect their forward US passengers to popular cities in Japan and abroad, and use their underutilized 737s from Guam to connect to obscure destinations that have become more popular amongst tourists, but that mainline Japanese carriers have somewhat neglected. So far, this strategy has worked well, whether from a marketing perspective to get more people excited about United's expansions into unique markets, or for those that may actually take advantage of these unique itineraries. United has pursued a strategy of connecting to unserved fringe markets, like their recent expansion into Greenland from their hub in Newark. But these expansions haven't included the reopening of an old legacy hub, and for United, this expansion probably isn't over. Within a 737's range, many other obscure destinations could be reached, and though United has not announced any new destinations recently from Narita, I think it's only about when, not if, they will add more connections. And safe to say, I think United will be careful to tiptoe around the domination of ANA and Japan Airlines and only serve routes that Japanese airlines are somewhat avoiding. With all of this in mind, what do you think? Do you think United will decide to keep operating their Narita mini-hub? Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. Also, quickly, I wanted to let you know of some of the perks of channel membership. If you'd like to further support my work, you can do so by becoming a channel member, and in return, get some perks like earlier access to videos and more. Anyways, thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.